Well, brother, I'm a kid born in Brooklyn back in the 70s, right? Out of Puerto Rican parents that moved back to New York, or from Puerto Rico to New York back in their late 50s and whatnot. Grew up doing sports, man. Boxing, basketball, even volleyball in Puerto Rico. And I always had the itch about joining the service. I had a cousin served in Vietnam. And of course, I'm a product of the 80s generation, right? Rambo and all the movies that came out in that era. And I just wanted to serve. I never thought about, I'm going to retire from the service, but serving was something I liked. So I joined. And I was fortunate enough to become an artilleryman and serving in Germany and Korea and Oklahoma and Texas, Honduras. And I was one of the guys that I think just had fun doing what I was doing. And I enjoyed it to my last day in the army. And shortly but not, of course, you got to know, you got a family. I got two kids, a daughter and a son, and now I got a grandson.
Yes, sir.
And after 31 years and a half, I decided to hang it up, man, and retired and start enjoying some of the life and I guess all the dilemma of being retired and the enjoyment about being retired. And I'm here today, man, enjoying and having, of course, conversation like you and just living life, brother, living life.
Man, that's beautiful. I appreciate you sharing that with us. And I would tell you, I remember when we first met, and I shared the story with you earlier today, man. I got to share it now.
Yeah.
We were, I can't remember exactly what we were doing, but I heard this raspy voice guy. Just bellowing across the corridor. I'm like, who is this guy? But when I looked, I seen kind of like nothing but professionalism. Like it wasn't outlandish, it wasn't derogatory, anything of that nature. It was just soldiering. And every time I seen you, and like I said, Goolsby and Malloy, it was just nothing but professionalism, man. So when I thought about you guys, yeah, these guys, like when you open up the book in leadership, like you should see these guys in the in the book side by side. And so
I appreciate that. No, I appreciate it. I think it's. I think I was at that time I was a young, about to be first sergeant. I think, and and I think if I tell you what, if you was to ask anybody that know me as an E5 all the way to a sergeant major, I think I carried that energy throughout my my time in the army, and it's one of those things that that's who I was, who I am, in fact.
Well, you talk about this energy, right? But I mean, you're still doing MMA and all this other stuff, right?
Well, you have to stay young, man. I'm gonna lie to you. I mean, as you know, once you retire, and you start doing this PT and all that good stuff that the Army has in place. It's so structured, and you start eating the same. Things tend to not to go well, right? But the truth is this, man. I've seen too many people that after they retire, they pretty much get into some kind of all these health issues, and us Puerto Ricans, man, we like to eat some crazy stuff that is not. It tastes good, but it's not healthy at all. And so, since the truth is, I've been in boxing since age maybe 12 years old.
Yeah.
And I started coaching back in '97 when I was in Korea. And I found that niche, things I like to do, in the type of, when it comes down to combat sports, it's, typically those people are like type A personalities, right?
Yeah.
It's a lot of energy. There's a young crowd. So I tell you, it gives a lot back to me just being around those individuals.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. That is good. And I've noticed when I was looking at one of your videos earlier, I seen one of our old soldiers from the regiment, Platt. And
yes, sir.
Yeah. So yeah, that's good because I know he was real big into doing so. So it's good to see that some of my old career and some of the later versions of career meshed. And I'm like, hey, I know that guy.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed.
So
I was humble. I was Platt. I cornered him through a couple of his amateur fights and professional fights. Man, he's a great guy. Still teaching Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu here in Central Texas also.
Is he really?
Yes, he is.
I haven't talked to him in a long time, man. That'd be great to catch up with him. So we want to talk accountable leadership today. You've done 31 glorious and successful years in the United States Army, achieving the highest, the pinnacle of your pay grade, of your community, your pay grade. How does that journey look when it comes down to accountable leadership? Like, what does that look like?
First of all, I believe that, a lot of people tend to believe that the more senior they are, the less accountable they are, right? Or they can get away with stuff just because of their position or even some rank. I truly believe that, holding people accountable and holding yourself accountable, right? First, it sends the positive message to organization, regardless military or civilian, that not only you are willing to accept, I guess, responsibility and be accountable for your own actions, right? Good or bad.
Right.
But then again, when they see that you hold yourself accountable for good or bad decisions, it's easy to impart down to your subordinates, right?
Yeah.
So because they know that when you are, strict on yourself, and when it comes down to holding people accountable, they know that what's expected. And I think it's more of those, the foundation, right? Amongst many things, the foundation of not only a good leader, but great organizations.
Yeah. See, that's good. I like that so much. Because here's what I just heard you say. In order for me to expect another person to be accountable, I must first be accountable of that thing. So if I expect you to be at PT on time, I need to make sure that I'm there as well, right? And not only there as well, but I need to make sure that I'm on time first. So I may end up showing up a little bit earlier than what I expect you to, just so that, when you show up, you run into a friendly face. And and I want to make sure that I'm in the same.
Oh, yes, absolutely. I think it shows a lot, right? I always was, of course, because I was involved in combatives, right, in the Army. Yeah. And typically, you see the senior leaders in the back of the formation with combatives going on with the arm cross and just observing, right? And then they see me out there, right? And sometimes you got your good days that you get on top of things, and sometimes you got the bad days.
Yeah.
But, that's one of the things, right? If I'm going to hold soldiers accountable for training, who am I to stand behind and just observe training and not be part of it, right? So, it bleeds over to, the good word of lead by example. But more than anything is, right, I'm going to hold you accountable for what you actually doing, right? But I'm going to do it here with you. So that's one of the things. But absolutely, I mean, if you're not holding yourself accountable, right, it's hard. It's hard to hold others accountable.
Absolutely, because now we're talking integrity issues, all of those other things. And this kind of reminds me of, and in no way am I comparing my career to yours, not in the least little bit. But it just kind of reminds me of my military career, just coming up through the ranks, a young knucklehead, trying to figure out what the Army is all about and where I fit in this grand scheme. Just trying to find my stride. And I remember some of those days, hanging out late, waking up late, barely making it to PT, standing in formation, leaning sideways, stuff like that, man. And when you think about that, right, we all go through that level of maturation. Yes. And it's always somebody that is there that is holding you accountable, but they had to do that accountability measure for themselves first. So in essence, accountability gets passed on from generation to generation to generation. At least that's how we would like for it.
No, absolutely. And first of all, don't take away about your performance and what you did for the great Army of ours, right? Because I think we spoke about this earlier, right? Regardless of what, where I got to in the Army and how long I served, what you did, because I know you, right? I know what you did was great things for this country and for this nation and for the Army. So in difference to where I've been and where you was, it don't make a difference. I mean, the same thing applies because believe me, just like you, I was that knucklehead coming in sideways back in the days also, my first tour in Germany, it was interesting for lack of better words,
Yeah. See, and it's stories like these, right, that, we look back and share and smile and things of that nature, but we share them simply because we appreciate the journey. The journey going from being that knucklehead and then realizing that now you're the person standing in front of a formation trying to police up other knuckleheads simply because you can see the best version of them that they have not discovered yet. And I think that's just awesome. And knowing you, I mean, man, you've been doing it for so long, and I've seen you in action. Like I've seen you pull the best out of people. It might have been painful in some
absolutely,
in some instances, but hey, it worked out for the best for them. Yeah.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed.
So let's kind of transition here because we kind of started leaning onto it here, but I kind of want to get after the more personalized character things, overcoming this and overcoming that. What do you believe that some of the challenges are with leaders when it comes down to accountability?
I believe that those that don't hold themselves accountable, right, you can see it immediately with the people they lead. because just like a saying goes, as soon as you see something going wrong and you do not fix it, you just create another standard, right?
Yeah.
And and again, you peeling back the onion, you just did something that you were supposed to do. You're supposed to hold somebody accountable, but because deep down in your heart, you know that you are not straight, you don't make that move, right? So that's what happens a lot. Right? I tell you what, and when I became a senior, E8 and especially E9, I made it a purpose. Everything I see something wrong, I didn't correct it directly. I just look and scan the area, found one of those NCOs, pull him aside and say, okay, look and tell me what you see.
Yeah.
Tell me what you see, because it's only one of me in a battalion, right?
Yeah.
One E9 and it's a bunch of others, right?
Exactly.
So you cannot expect that sergeant major to be fixing every single problem the organization has. So I think that is the main thing. I think is that a lot of people don't quite understand, that especially leaders, right? The more senior you get, that when you standing from a formation, it can be a platoon, a battery, a company, a battalion, brigade, doesn't matter. There is one of you and there's hundreds looking at you.
Yeah.
They are observing you, and they are actually studying the way who you are and how you do business.
Yeah.
And soldiers are smart, man. And just like you was, and you used to stand in formation, and somebody would be talking information. You like, this guy have nothing, no value whatsoever, right?
Yeah.
But you understand those days, right? So absolutely. I believe that because and it turns around. I'm gonna give you a good example. One of my best first sergeants, in fact, the best first sergeant in my battalion, we had to relieve him, right? And because he started doing something that after investigation, 15-6 investigation, we found out that he was liable for some stuff that he did.
Right.
And of course, we did what was expected. Because I always say this, and that's what first sergeant Sergeant Fuentes wants. I don't write no regulations. I just enforce the standard.
Of course.
And when we relieve that individual, and I think it was a message to the organization, if we are willing to relieve and to hold accountable the best individual within the organization, what make you think that you can get away with something?
That's right.
So I look back, and a lot of people may say, well, that soldier's career was ruined. I said, I'll take that back. That person ruined his own career. I held him accountable for his own actions. Right. So this is the way I think that a lot of things people miss, because the problem sometimes you see in an organization and in the Army is that when a NCO, a leader, an officer gets in trouble, we are quick to find out how to resolve it, right? And don't get me wrong, everybody deserves a chance. Yeah. There's a different action that is taken for a soldier to do a mistake, and for a soldier that drastically do something that he knows was wrong.
Absolutely.
Right? So I fully understand. I've been given many second chances, and I'm grateful for that. Exactly, right? But when it comes down to things that, there are certain, left and right boundaries that you as a leader should expect to follow more and strict than anybody else.
Absolutely.
Because if an E4 was to do the same thing he did, right, we will actually put the book on him. Right? Yeah. And nobody would question that. Yeah. But as soon as a leader within any organization, and you see it in the news, you see it in corporations and big companies, when somebody's not held accountable, they get all kind of stuff be coming out.
Mushroom cloud.
Because the organization is not holding people accountable, right? And then regardless of your position. So I remember this incident where we actually held this first line accountable. And when I stood in front of formation, I explained what's going on. I let it be known. I say, because you, number one, doesn't matter your position, your rank, or how established you are within an organization. If you do something that not with the Army values and regulations and policies, etc., you're going to be held accountable. Yeah. Simple as that. And it's not First Sergeant Fuentes or Sergeant Fuentes hunting you down. You brought it to yourself. Yeah. So I think that's the main thing. I think that holding the challenges of accountability within leaders is that. It's simple as that. It's okay to give people chances. Yeah. It's okay to mentor. It's okay to have talks. But get to the point where you are senior level, you know better. Yeah. You know better what to do and not to do.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think, excuse me. I think So for most organizations, they have their organizational values, and it's no secret what the Army values are. We've been
Right,
learning
right,
it since we were young,
right, right,
right?
right.
So with under the umbrella of the organizational values or the Army values, you have these pillars that we're supposed to be existing by. Steward of profession, trust, honor, all those things, and these are what we call character builders. And
Right.
so, in essence, as leaders, we expect that leaders should be men and women of impeccable character. And I think ultimately what it boils down to is that when a leader does or do not uphold those particular standards of that high character that we expect them to be, then we start to question the fact whether you can uphold somebody else to that same standard as well. Because not only have you not done it, but now it's another person. Um, and this just kind of reminds me of a story when I was in Korea, and obviously going to remain nameless. There was a particular high-ranking individual getting ready to leave, but at that particular point in time, they just, enjoyed themselves a little bit too much, and
Mm.
curfew just wasn't important any longer. Well, you kind of know what happened from that point on.
Absolutely.
When they violate curfew, it got ugly. Um, and we couldn't figure out, like, why would you do that? Like, literally, like, you're really flying in a couple of days, and you just chose to do that. Um, but then by that same token, you were the same person who stood in front of everybody and was saying, don't do this, make sure that you're doing this, take care of your soldiers. And, we've all made mistakes. And you
Absolutely,
hit the
yeah.
head.
Absolutely.
Everybody deserves a second chance. As long as the thing that you violated was not so egregious to the point that if the worst case scenario happened, that there was no return course of action. Like, case in point, we all know that DUI is probably one of the worst things that's probably happened. You go out there and get a DUI, somebody really just did you a justice. Because if you didn't get the DUI, if you got in a car accident and killed somebody,
Absolutely.
that's the worst thing. So the DUI was honestly a blessing in disguise. But by that same token, you still got to suffer the consequences that go along with it. Sad but true.
No, absolutely, and I'm the same line. I think I'm a firm believer that those that get cut, is extremely right. DWI, that's not the first time they did it either, right? It's small chances that you actually did this, but right, you have to get caught that day. And the same thing with drugs and everything else. But and again, there's a learning process, right? You are young at the beginning, and you are willing to take certain chances. And it's different if I see a person that is taking a little too many chances. I had a good soldier mind that decided to run from the cops because he thought he can outrun them. And I asked him, he ran on a motorcycle, right? And I was like, why you did it? Good soldier too. He said, Top, I just thought I can get away, man. I really thought.
Wow.
So, but and again, and knowing him, and I know him for a long time.
Yeah.
I like, well, you have to pay the piper now. That's number one, because what happened is, right, I cannot defend what you just said. And there's no defense to you when you're running from the cops, right? But the issue is that, again, holding people accountable, right?
Yeah.
And making it be known that you're holding people accountable, which is more. Because a lot of people think, well, let's take care of that behind closed doors. And even they do maybe a letter of reprimand or a letter of concern or something like that, but it's behind black doors. Well, what happened is you're forgetting about those 600 people that's not information every day. Right? And they need to see that. And I'm not saying about broadcasting what you're doing with your soldiers. However, it'll be known that you was held accountable for those actions. So absolutely, I think it's when I come down to giving chances, I'm using that term because you are maturing, right? And you don't know better. But it comes to the point that eventually, like, you are that sergeant major, that first sergeant, that sergeant first class, even that E6, right? I think slowly but surely, the higher rank you get, the more stricter you have to be within the left and right limits. And there's no longer. I mean, I'm not here to mentor another sergeant major. In fact, when I was in Honduras as a Guardian sergeant major, we got a sergeant major drunk as he can be driving, and everybody, well, oh no, we're gonna do what we have to do, because how many other people be caught in the same, 2 or 3 weeks ago with the same issue, and you know what happened to them. So again, I think it's mistakes, right? Because you are maturing and knowing, understanding, and you are maybe a little too eager to do other things, and you are full of energy. That's different to where actually you are understanding, fully capable to know that